All right, it looks like the participants are starting to slow down. So welcome and bienvenidos, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Before we begin today's presentation, I'd like to let everyone know that we're offering Spanish and American Sign Language interpretation during today's meeting. After I go over the instructions for joining the Spanish interpretation channel, our Spanish interpreter will provide them in Spanish. So simultaneous interpretation is being provided. English speakers may need to select English as their language. From your computer, select the globe icon at the bottom of your screen and select English or Spanish. From your mobile device, select the More icon under the three dots to select English or Spanish.
Tardes estaremos proporcionando las instrucciones para ingresar al canal de interpretación, ya que esta presentación se llevará a cabo con interpretación simultánea al español. Para poder ingresar a ese canal, le pedimos que si nos acompaña a través de un computador, vaya a la parte inferior de su pantalla y busque el globo terráqueo. Al apretar usted verá la selección de idiomas, en este caso español, y puede apagar el audio original para solo escuchar una voz. Si nos acompaña a través de un teléfono inteligente o una tableta, esta función la encontrará en los 3 puntos o en la palabra More, donde desglosa la pantalla y busca interpretación al lenguaje, seleccione español, pero muy importante aquí que apriete la tecla azul de terminado para acceder a la función. Muchas gracias. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Before we begin, I want to check on the interpretation rooms. Is everybody able to see and hear the slides? And are the Spanish and ASL interpretations working? Okay. Sounds like we're good. So let's begin. So officially, good morning. Thanks so much for joining us. My name is Catherine Canepa. I'm an air pollution specialist at CARB, and I'll be facilitating today's work group for the fiscal year 2025-26 Clean Transportation Incentives Funding Plan, focused on the individual incentives or the light-duty vehicle purchase incentives. Note that we also call the plan the funding plan for short. This is the second of 2 work groups in a series focused on the individual incentives. Here are a few quick details. We'll post the recording and attendee list on the Low Carbon Transportation Incentives webpage in about 2 weeks, and we'll email meeting registrants when that information is available. Staff will also share the link to the webpage in the chat. Today's materials, including the agenda and slides, are also on that page. To ask questions during Q&A sessions, please use the raise hand feature in Zoom or press #2 on your phone. You can also email us at cleantransportationincentives@arb.ca.gov. We'll keep an eye on that inbox throughout the presentation. Staff will drop the email address in that chat as well. If there are any disruptions, we might need to reschedule the meeting. Please ensure your name is visible on Zoom or adjust your phone number to the last 4 digits if you're calling in. We can move to the next slide to navigate today's agenda. So we just covered the welcome and housekeeping portion of our agenda. Next, I'll provide an introduction about the Clean Transportation Incentives Funding Plan and a high-level overview of the individual or vehicle purchase incentive projects. We'll then move into a discussion of proposed policy changes for this year's funding plan. We'll take a short 5-minute break after that, followed by a discussion about our long-term plan strategy. We'll then have an open comment and Q&A session. And lastly, we'll wrap up with next steps. Next slide, please. In the introduction, I'll cover a bit about us, the California Air Resources Board, also known as CARB, and our incentive programs, as well as what the funding plan is. Then I'll go over our investment programs and the policy drivers and the guiding documents for the funding plan. Finally, I'll provide a quick update on the state budget timeline. Next slide, please. CARB is part of a 3-tiered system for improving air quality. This is comprised of the federal government through the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, or U.S. EPA, CARB at the state level, and regional air quality agencies. In general, the U.S. EPA has authority over interstate sources such as trains, airplanes, and ocean-going vessels. CARB has authority over mobile sources such as vehicles and equipment that are in or enter California. The regional air quality agencies have authority over local stationary sources such as refineries, automotive shops, and gas stations. CARB sets California's own health-based air quality standards statewide for vehicles, fuels, consumer products, and sources of toxic air contaminants. It is the only state permitted under the Federal Clean Air Act to set its own requirements for motor vehicles. CARB also sets significant goals and develops and implements programs to address greenhouse gas emissions. California needs significant reductions in oxides of nitrogen, or NOx, in order to support our state implementation plan to meet federal regulations. In this regard, CARB is especially focused on significant reductions in emissions from light-duty vehicles, as well as medium and heavy-duty on- and off-road vehicles and equipment. This includes reducing vehicle miles traveled, or VMT. Next slide, please. The Clean Transportation Incentives Funding Plan is an annual detailed guide for how CARB will allocate or assign any funds that are appropriated to it by the legislature annually through the state budget. Through the plan, CARB staff aim to meet CARB and California state goals to improve air quality and reduce the negative impacts of climate change. CARB staff also aim to meet community and business needs. Where any funding appropriations allow for CARB to allocate funds to different incentive projects, that's where we collaborate with you and other interested parties on how those funds should be allocated. Lastly, the plan is a way for us to refine and improve how the projects work. For example, last year, one policy change was to direct last year's Clean Off-Road Equipment Project's limited funds only to small businesses and public agencies, because many of them struggle to have the funds needed to be able to purchase this type of equipment. Next slide, please. This slide shows the funding plan development timeline, which aligns with the state budget development timeline. Our June kickoff workshop on June 17th began the official process for us to collaborate to develop the funding plan, with mid-June to mid-August being our main time to do that, as well as the formal 30-day public review and comment period, which occurs from about October to about mid-November to review the proposed plan before the board meeting. We'll hold a second workshop in mid-August to discuss the draft ideas we've developed in collaboration with you and other interested parties. We also hold work groups, which are more focused discussions on specific projects or sets of projects. We're in a work group today. In December, we begin to implement the changes approved by the board into the various incentive projects. We also use this December evening community meeting to reflect on how the development process went so we can improve it for the following year. I'd like to point out that while this process may look smooth, it's anything but. We're constrained by the June 15th legislative budget deadline, and we may receive trailer budget bills towards the end of the legislative session, such as for our Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, which further constrains us. This year, since it's an odd-numbered year, the legislative session ends on September 12th. Rather than push our process out farther, we stick to our timeline to get the dollars out the door quickly to program administrators so we can spend the incentive funds quickly and get them to the people and businesses that need them. Otherwise, we risk the possibility of the legislature pulling back the funds. Next slide. As I mentioned previously, the funding plan is a way for us to refine and improve how the incentive projects work. I mentioned previously that one policy change was to adjust CORE, or the Clean Off-Road Equipment Project, to direct funding towards small businesses and public agencies. To provide another example, for the Driving Clean Assistance Program, we increased the loan cap amount from $30,000 to $45,000 for a financing assistance component, because we heard from community members and organizations that people needed a higher loan amount to be able to purchase the types of vehicles they need and want. Next slide. The funding plan for clean transportation incentives covers projects under the Air Quality Improvement Program and the Low Carbon Transportation Program. The Air Quality Improvement Program, or AQIP, was created in 2007 and has served as the foundation for the Low Carbon Transportation Program. AQIP is funded by smog abatement and vehicle registration fees that are deposited into the Air Pollution Control Fund. This program focuses on zero-emission heavy-duty projects that reduce criteria pollutants and air toxics. The Low Carbon Transportation Program is part of the California Climate Investments. California Climate Investments is funded by proceeds from the sale of state-owned allowances from quarterly cap-and-trade auctions that are deposited into the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund. This program has also received funding from the General Fund and other one-time funding sources, and together these investments support CARB's advanced technology, clean transportation incentive projects that reduce greenhouse gas emissions in priority populations. It's not only funding sources that drive how we develop our funding plan. We also look to support the strategies and follow the guidance outlined in numerous other documents, such as the Senate Bill 350 Low-Income Barrier Study, the Mobile Source Strategy, and the Senate Bill 150 report. Additionally, the funding plan supports executive orders and legislative mandates, such as the governor's executive orders on zero-emission technologies and equity, and the California Sustainable Communities and Climate Protection Act. We also refer to strategy documents, such as the Climate Action Plan for Transportation Infrastructure, which build on executive orders targeted to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in transportation. Next slide. We'd like to give a quick update of the state budget timeline and what that means for our funding plan process, and more specifically, funding availability this year for clean transportation incentives. Next slide. This slide shows the funding plan development timeline, which aligns with the state budget development timeline. June 15th was the constitutional deadline for the legislature to pass the budget. Our June kickoff workshop on June 17th began the official process for us to collaborate to develop the funding plan. Mid-June to mid-August is our main time to hold work groups and workshops to discuss the draft ideas with you and stakeholders, specific projects or sets of projects. Although the main state budget has already passed, it's important to note that we may receive trailer budget bills towards the end of the legislative session. September 12th is when the California legislative year ends in 2025 and is the last day to pass bills. This deadline is important because it can sometimes impact our funding plan process, since the legislature may pass bills that amend the state budget by adding or removing funds that were previously appropriated. For example, greenhouse gas reduction funds are negotiated up until the end of the legislative year. Bills can also be passed late that impact program criteria and implementation. If any of the clean transportation incentive programs receive any last-minute funding, we may hold another public meeting in late September to discuss proposed allocations for different projects. Staff write the proposed funding plan and post it to the website on October 10th, when interested parties will have an opportunity to review and comment on the plan for 30 days. Like I mentioned before, we'll also hold an evening community meeting on October 21 to discuss the proposed plan and answer people's questions and listen to comments. We'll present the proposed plan and hear verbal comments at the November 20th board meeting. Next slide. This slide updates the clean transportation incentive appropriations based on the budget passed on June 15th. Note that all amounts are approximate. Along with the previously appropriated Air Quality Improvement Program funding of $35 million, CARB was appropriated $132 million from the Air Pollution Control Fund due to a settlement. This funding is for the Clean Truck and Bus Voucher Program, also known as HVIP. There's no proposed funding in the current budget for individual and community mobility incentive projects. However, the legislature acted early on a budget-related item in Assembly Bill 100. They appropriated an additional $17 million for the regional Clean Cars for All programs from fiscal year 2024-25 funds. These dollars will be prioritized for air districts that have insufficient funds to meet demand. Again, it's important to note that even though the state budget for general fund dollars has been determined, the legislature and the governor's office are still negotiating the final budget for the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund. They have until the end of this year's legislative session on September 12th to pass bills that could amend the state budget by adding or removing funds previously appropriated. That was a lot of information, so we'll take a quick pause for any questions and comments on what you've heard so far. Before we move into the next portion of the presentation, there will be plenty of other opportunities to ask questions later in the presentation as well. So I'll turn it over to Robert.
Thank you, Catherine. Hi, Robert Chester here, staff at CARB. I'll be facilitating the first, well, all of the Q&A comment sessions. This is the first of 3. So if you would like to make a comment or ask a question, and you are joining from a desktop using Zoom online, please click on the raise hand option on the Zoom navigation bar under the Participants tab. If you are using an updated version of Zoom, you may need to click on the React or Reactions option on the Zoom navigation bar and then click on Raise Hand. For those using Zoom on a mobile application, please click on the Raise Hand option in the More tab. Again, if you're using an updated version of Zoom, you may need to click on the React or Reactions option on the Zoom navigation bar, and then click on Raise Hand. For those participating by telephone, please be sure to press #2, and we will call on you accordingly. If you'd like to provide a written comment or ask a question via email, please email us at cleantransportation.incentives@arb.ca.gov, which is shown on the slide before you. Okay, also, when called upon, or if you're emailing us, please be sure to identify any affiliation after you introduce yourself by name, if you have any. Okay, at this time, I see one hand raised. Adam Borison, please go ahead.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me? I assume you can hear me.
Yes.
Sure, it's Adam Borison. My affiliation, I am the CEO of eMotion Autos. We've done about 100 Clean Cars for All or DCAP deals this year. So we are very active participants in that program. I appreciate the background, and perhaps we're going to get to this soon. But I guess, can you summarize quickly the financial state, basically looking forward as we are as a dealer to doing more of these deals, and a little confused about fiscal years and calendar years and budget deadlines. Could you summarize quickly what the status might be of funding, let's say starting today, going through the end of whatever fiscal year we're in, and perhaps the next fiscal year? Again, I realize it's a lot to say, but I'm just curious if there's a way of summarizing whether we should expect more or less of the same funding for Clean Cars for All, DCAP, et cetera, going forward.
Lisa, I don't know if this is covered later on, and then we want to table this until then, or
no, I can
ahead.
offer a quick overview response. Thank you for the question. My name's Lisa McCumber. I'm the branch chief over these projects, and just kind of high level on budget. So the kind of outlook right now is that the projects, they all have funding, and we do expect most of the Clean Cars for All programs to remain open for some time, and the Driving Clean Assistance Program to remain open for some time. But as of right now, there's no new money coming to the programs. So once the projects do run out of funds, they will likely close unless new money is appropriated. We are seeing that with new money we're infusing into the programs, it won't last very long. That's kind of across the board for the projects. Some districts may stay open longer than others. DCAP won't be open for very long. We are unfortunately just at a spot right now where, with the feds removing the federal tax credit at the end of September, there's a lot of interest in the programs for folks trying to get in. And it's, longer term, we certainly need additional funding to keep the programs going.
Thanks.
Yep, you bet.
Thank you, Adam. Any other questions or comments at this time? We have no emails yet. I would remind folks that you will have 2 additional opportunities to ask questions or make a comment, and you may email us at any time. Okay, let's proceed. Back to you, Catherine.
Thanks, Robert. All right, so we're going to continue with our presentation, and next we'll be discussing the individual mobility incentive projects, which are also known as the light duty vehicle purchase incentive projects. So same suite of projects. Next slide. Awesome. So, like I said, today's work group is focused on the light duty vehicle purchase incentive projects, which include the Zero-Emission Assurance Project, California Integrated Travel Project, Access Clean California, California E-Bike Incentive Project, Clean Cars for All programs, and the Driving Clean Assistance Program. This figure illustrates these projects. And this year, as we said, there's currently $0 allocated in the fiscal year 2025-26 budget. I'll provide a quick refresher on what these projects are, starting with the Zero-Emission Assurance Project, or ZAP, and moving clockwise. So first, ZAP offers incentives for battery or fuel cell replacements to reduce the risk of buying a used zero-emission vehicle. Cal-ITP, or the California Integrated Travel Project, helps support the implementation of contactless payment systems to make riding transit easier. Access Clean California is an outreach project focused on increasing awareness of the full suite of clean transportation equity incentives. The California E-Bike Incentive Project offers individuals payment assistance for the purchase of an electric bicycle. Clean Cars for All is run by the 5 major air districts and provides a scrap and replace incentive in those districts' territories. And finally, the Driving Clean Assistance Program is a statewide program that also helps individuals replace older vehicles with a clean vehicle and offers financial support by way of a vehicle grant or a low-interest loan. Today's meeting will focus on the projects for which we are proposing policy changes in this year's funding plan, which are the Driving Clean Assistance Program and Clean Cars for All. Staff does anticipate that these policy changes will be applicable to other incentive programs, including e-bikes and ZAP. I'll now turn it over to my colleague Tiffany to present an update on the Driving Clean Assistance Program.
Thank you, Catherine. Hi, everyone. My name is Tiffany Nguyen. I'm one of the staffers over on DCAP. So just as a quick introduction, so the Driving Clean Assistance Program expands access to Clean Cars for All incentives up to $12,500 towards the purchase or lease of a zero-emission vehicle outside of the 5 largest air districts to areas of the state that have not had access to a regional Clean Cars for All program. It also connects participants to a capped interest rate loan of 8% and provides incentives towards charging solutions. DCAP is designed to be a complementary option to regional Clean Cars for All by providing a pathway for non-scrap incentives. By enabling both a scrap and non-scrap options, consumers would be able to literally build their incentive, creating flexibility best suited for them and their needs. DCAP is currently available to all regions of the state and is accepting applications for non-scrap options to participants living in regional Clean Cars for All regions. In addition to providing non-scrap incentives, it also uses the needs-based model, which enables consistent and continuous access to incentives regardless of geography. Next slide, please. And with that, we will provide a status update for DCAP. DCAP is administered by Community Housing Development Corporation, or CHDC, and provides access to clean and zero-emission vehicles through providing access to Clean Cars for All incentives outside of a regional Clean Cars for All program, which is currently administered by the 5 largest air districts, and also connects participants to fair financing. To date, around $241 million have been allocated to DCAP. DCAP has been accepting applications from Imperial Valley residents beginning September 2024 and has since been open to the rest of the state following a monthly staggered rollout in order to ensure equitable access to incentives. As such, as of March 25, 2025, DCAP is now available to regional Clean Cars for All regions for non-scrap options. Since the project opened statewide in September 2024, 143 projects have been funded, but over 16,000 applications representing over $196 million in demand have been received and are in progress of redeeming services. As part of the DCAP application process, there is financial counseling that is conducted with participants that could potentially take up to 3 months to complete. There are no new allocations for DCAP, but staff is exploring different ways to align program requirements and eligibility criteria to regional Clean Cars for All programs. Next, Olivia will provide an overview of the Clean Cars for All programs.
Hi, everyone. My name is Olivia Lane. I'm an air pollution specialist and the lead staff for the Regional Clean Cars for All program. So again, it's a scrap and replace program that provides incentives to low-income consumers as they replace their higher polluting vehicles with cleaner transportation. Participants receive as much as $12,000 toward the purchase or lease of a new or used plug-in hybrid electric vehicle or zero-emission vehicle. Alternative mobility options such as e-bikes or transit passes are also available. The program is currently administered in the 5 largest air districts in California: South Coast, San Joaquin Valley, Bay Area, Sacramento Metropolitan, and San Diego. No funding has been allocated through the funding plan this year, but other funding was recently made available through Carl Moyer State Reserve co-funding and Assembly Budget Bill 100. $357.5 million has been previously allocated to the regional programs, and over 26,000 vehicles have been replaced to date. This year, staff is focusing on program alignment. Staff received feedback that it would be helpful to receive more updates on the available funding and burn rates for the Clean Cars for All programs. Burn rate refers to how quickly funds are getting out to the public. So this table shows this information for the regional Clean Cars for All programs. The project funds remaining column refers to the amount of funding left for each program that is available to be spent on incentives. It does not include administrative funding. The quarterly burn rate column shows the average expenditures for a quarter or a 3-month period. So as previously mentioned, San Joaquin Valley and Bay Area are due to receive additional funding through AB 100, and this is not included in this table. This table is also a bit out of date as we have just received data from Q2 of this year, which we just received last week. So we will have an updated table soon. And then one thing to note when you look at this table is that programs often need to close to additional applicants when the number of applicants in their queue is estimated to use up the remaining funding. So while they close to additional applicants and they may close their program to these additional applicants, they're still continuing to work through that backlog and verify eligibility and incentive amounts. Programs also close to address administrative updates as well. So, and then please note that while these metrics are available for the Driving Clean Assistance Program, since it's opened this year, it is a brand new program, so the burn rate is not yet a reliable measurement. All right, next slide. Okay, so at this time, we will move on to a discussion of the proposed policy changes for the fiscal year 2025-2026 funding plan. This discussion will center around program alignment for the light duty programs, specifically Regional Clean Cars for All and DCAP. All right, so through implementation and feedback heard from Regional Clean Cars for All administrators, CHDC, who's the administrator for DCAP, and other stakeholders, it was determined that alignment of program criteria would be essential to reducing confusion. We are also hearing that the policies that we set must remain flexible and that equity should be the focus when we are developing and implementing these changes. We know there will never be a one-size-fits-all, but by bringing alignment where appropriate, we will create resiliency and stability as we weather an unpredictable market and funding allocations. So as we discussed previously, this work is not just beginning. CARB staff has been working on alignment through program administrator collaboration meetings, work groups, and symposium events for the past several years. The board has also previously adopted alignment criteria in past years as well. We have over 10 years of data and lessons learned from years of implementing Clean Cars for All, the Clean Vehicle Rebate Project, and other light duty incentive programs. So the next step would be to formalize these guidelines and implement necessary changes to achieve a more equitable and aligned suite of incentive programs.
So with that, CARB staff have identified 6 potential policy updates that will be critical towards addressing previously mentioned participant feedback and public comment. These policies have been identified as building blocks in providing equitable solutions towards the adoption of electric vehicles and will reinforce consumer protections, transparency during the application process, and maintain access to communities and individuals that need it the most. Please note that some of our proposed changes answer to various feedbacks that we have received. That is why you will see some policies in multiple columns here. While all of these driving goals for alignment are addressed holistically by this combination of policies, the X's denote where specific policies do the most to further those particular goals. Okay, next slide, thank you. CARB has received feedback in a prior workgroup that occurred on July 10th that requested for comparisons that demonstrate the differences between regional clean cars for all and DCAP eligibility criteria. I'll provide a moment for review of this table, which is a snapshot of various differences amongst the programs. I'll go ahead and pause here for a little bit. Oh, can you go? Yep, thank you. Okay. So as you can see, eligibility criteria ranges widely in current retired model year cutoff to the number of approved dealerships. Please note that there are additional criteria that vary between regional clean cars for all and DCAP that are not on this table. Staff have selected the most relevant criteria and placed those here for this discussion. Additionally, it should be noted that currently San Diego is piloting a partnership with DCAP as it continues to build capacity within its stacks. Currently, DCAP covers communities outside of San Diego stacks, and without this partnership, those living within the San Diego Clean Cars for All territory but are not living within a DAC would not have access to a scrap and replace incentive. With the needs-based program closure terms, specific tiers will close based on the amount of funding that is currently available. This differs from the first-come, first-served model, as needs-based is designed to concentrate incentives in areas that have not had access to either Clean Cars for All or financing assistance incentive, and was meant to last several cycles of funding, all while concentrating on incentives to those who need it the most. Yeah. We will now go through each policy proposal in more detail. Our light-duty incentive programs have various eligibility criteria, but often do not align on how they verify these requirements. Though the board approved the use of gross income for purposes of determining program eligibility, not all administrators have implemented this in a consistent fashion. To verify income, all light-duty vehicle incentive programs should use line 9, gross income, on the 1040 tax form. There should also be clear methods for those that cannot provide tax statements. For example, for non-filers, it could include a full review of pay stubs depending on what the district or the administrator has designated as their procedure. Aligning on this topic will create clarity for participants during the application process. We have previously heard that there is general support for this recommendation, but that we need to ensure administrators have the flexibility to seek additional documentation for those seeking loan support and for those who do not file taxes. In order to ensure clarity, we will be using this year's funding plan process to memorialize a specific approach for gross income, and we aim to move forward with implementing this change and will work with administrators to implement implementation plans and outreach material. To verify household size, all light-duty vehicle incentive programs should count the individual, spouse, and anyone claimed as dependent on taxes. This will provide more clarity for participants during the application process. We have previously heard that alignment on this topic is welcome. And as with income verification, we have previous funding plan approval, so CARB staff hopes to move forward with implementing this change and will work with administrators to update implementation plans and outreach materials.
All right, next, staff proposed that all programs use a consistent model year cutoff for scrap vehicles. To participate in Clean Cars for All, participants must scrap an older vehicle. Currently, the different administrators differ on requirements for how old the vehicle must be, ranging from 2006 or older to 2010 or older. Staff proposed that we set one aligned cutoff year for vehicles, and we propose 1 year for the cutoff vehicles that is 15 years or older. So that currently translates to a vehicle that is 2010 model year or older. So aligning on this will ensure everyone starts at the same starting point and ensures that folks are eligible for multiple programs. We have heard some feedback on this topic and understand that this change may lead to increased demand and administrative burden. Because of this, we would like to further explore a needs-based framework for those programs with high demand. We hope to host additional discussions to identify a clear process for this and collaborate on how we could implement this without too much administrative burden. Next, staff proposed that a consistent purchase price cap be set for when participants are using their incentives to buy their cleaner vehicle. A majority of the Clean Cars for All programs have a cap between $45,000 to $48,000, and a cap of $45,000 would align with findings from the Center for Sustainable Energy Affordability Study, and that would ensure that participants are not overburdened by a vehicle purchase. But with that said, in our last work group, we received feedback that this number would exclude one popular manufacturer in some regions and restrict vehicle purchasing options as we head into a volatile market with new tariffs and likely price increases. So for next steps, CARB staff would like to do more research and compare data on available vehicles and prices across regions. Next, getting into more implementation alignment, CARB staff has received input that an aligned approved dealer list would help to address vehicle inventory issues, bolster consumer protection, foster better connections with dealerships, and reduce confusion from dealers. So with that, we heard that we need more clarity on who would manage this list and how it would work. So at this time, CARB staff is looking to compile our dealer network and then work with our administrators further to understand the different policies and training that takes place. For purposes of the funding plan, staff would like to propose that a singular list be used for the projects and continue work over the coming months to implement this direction. We also believe that participants would benefit from clear definitions surrounding how program closure happens. Currently, each program handles this differently, and there are not clear formulas or definitions used. Aligning on this will create clarity, transparency for consumers, and create a level playing field for all programs. We have previously heard that there are concerns that this would be less flexibility for administrators to decide when they close. CARB staff would like to work further with administrators to determine a formula for when a program should close and define terms surrounding the process and identify key closure events. For purposes of the funding plan, staff would propose that more collaboration should take place with administrators to develop aligned procedures for program closure through implementation work groups in the coming months.
Okay. So additional policy proposal here. Staff also proposes to develop a new process to facilitate implementation updates outside of the funding plan. One such example of this is to post an annual program update notice through a memo, and we can look to several other CARB funding programs for ideas on how to facilitate this. Staff would work closely with administrators throughout the year on necessary changes and then push out these changes or updates on agree upon dates on a regular basis. This process would allow staff to be more responsive to the market and administrative feedback, as making changes through the funding plan and through grant amendments is slow and leads to extensive and extra administrative work. So we've discussed in depth as to how CARB intends to implement alignment policies, but why is this so important? The Assembly Bill 630 report, otherwise known as the AB 630 report, is an annual evaluation and goal setting report that is part of the funding plan as Appendix G. We use this requirement to report out on goals and the overall health of the regional Clean Cars for All programs and DCAP efforts. It informs the long-term direction of both programs, enabling CARB and program administrators to fine-tune each program through data-driven metrics while incorporating stakeholder and community input. Currently, what has been captured in this report are metrics pertaining to completed projects, such as participation rates, vehicle replacement, and associated charging solution. It also evaluates programs' reach in low-income and disadvantaged communities and captured co-benefits such as socio-economic impacts through participant surveys. Through these discussions, CARB would like to take this opportunity to provide public input on other metrics that should be evaluated and included into the AB 630 report. And now we will go ahead and move on into a Q&A period, and I'll go ahead and turn that on over to Robert.
Thank you, Tiffany. Okay. So if you would like to make a verbal comment or ask a question, please raise your hand. For those using Zoom online on a desktop, please click on the raise hand option on the Zoom navigation bar under the Participants tab. If you are using an updated version of Zoom, you may need to click on the React or Reactions option on the Zoom navigation bar and then click on Raise Hand. For those using Zoom on a mobile application, please click on the Raise Hand option in the More tab. Again, if you are using an updated version of Zoom, you may need to click on the React or Reactions option on the Zoom navigation bar and then click on Raise Hand. For those joining by telephone, please be sure to press #2 and we will call on you accordingly. And then if you would like to send us a written comment or ask a question via email, please email us at the address on the screen, cleantransportation.arb.ca.gov. Please be sure to identify any affiliation you have after introducing yourself. Okay, first up, Adam Borison. Please go ahead, Adam.
Well, thank you again, and I apologize. I will try not to monopolize. I have lots of thoughts about this, and I'd be happy to provide input. I hope it's not too late in the process, but if you'd like to reach out to me or vice versa, happy to provide input based on our experience. That's useful and helpful, I hope. But I guess I have two kind of high priority comments about changes that I think are necessary from a dealer perspective. One is payment. We have been owed hundreds of thousands of dollars by some of the programs that aren't paid for months. And as a small self-funded company, that's very difficult. And I don't know if that's high on your priority list and maybe not under your control, but payment to dealers is a big, I will say big factor. Maybe we're the only ones having this problem, but it is a big problem. The second factor is the DCAP portal. Maybe it's very early in the game, but there is no DCAP portal. There is no information as far as I can tell when you submit a claim, whether it's been acknowledged, whether it's being paid. Again, these are very kind of mechanical, tactical things, But from a dealer perspective, and I think we're all on the same page, where we want to increase the use of these programs, these are both big issues for dealers, at least for us. So again, I apologize for monopolizing. Happy to provide even more comments through some of the process, but I just want to make it clear there are some high priority difficulties that we, as someone who's very, very much aligned with this program, we are finding difficulties in these kinds of issues. I'll stop there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Adam. Appreciate that. No, you're not monopolizing at all. That was very succinct. We appreciate the feedback. Let's see if we have somebody online who can help.
Yeah, hi, does Aaron Hilliard, just give my Aaron Hilliard, manager overseeing Clean Cars for All program. Thank you for your feedback, Adam. I think as we develop, as we move into developing the statewide list for dealerships, I think these are some of the issues that we can dive into, and I very much appreciate picking your brain just to kind of understand some of the mechanics and see what we can do to perhaps speed some of that up for you and other dealers.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Next in the queue is Miguel Martinez. Please go ahead, Miguel.
Hi, Miguel Martinez with Go Power EV. I wanted to find out about this approved dealer list. Do you have new and used EV dealerships on that list? And I'd like to know who to contact to receive that approved dealership list.
Hi, Miguel.
Go ahead, Tiffany.
Okay, no problem. Hi, Miguel. Thank you for your comment. So the way how for both CC4A and DCAP, each of these administrators have their own, I guess, dealership list. And so it's a combination of both new and used. We could definitely reach out to you and provide the links, the appropriate links for the dealerships that are within the network. And so please do note that all administrators are currently working on expanding their dealership network. So more than happy to connect, and we can go from there.
Thanks, Miguel. Appreciate that. Next in the queue, Christopher Chavez. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Chris Chavez. I am the Deputy Policy Director for Coalition for Clean Air. Quick question relating to the amendments to the grant agreements for the district-based programs that have run out of funding. Is there an estimated time as to when those amended grant agreements should be completed and executed and that funding given to the districts?
Yeah, hey, Chris, this is Lisa, branch chief over the Equitable Mobility Incentive Programs. They are right now just in their final process. Those should be executed very, very soon.
Okay, great to hear. Is there like maybe within like a couple weeks or
hopefully within a couple days? We're
okay.
Yeah, they were in our last level of review and I think headed out to the districts. So yeah, we tend to turn those two things around pretty quickly. Sometimes districts have to go to their board for final approval. It does kind of depend on the district. But we are close. I mean, they should be executed, I'd say, fully executed, depending upon district processes within the next month at the most, I'd bet.
Understood. Thank you so much for that. And I know it's not necessarily in the control of CARB, but of course, if there's any additional funding that's provided by the legislature before the end of the legislative session, certainly would encourage additional funding for the district-based programs, as well as ensuring the continued operation of DCAP and the statewide program.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, we have no emails yet. All right, next in the queue, Brian Dodds. Please go ahead, Brian.
Good afternoon. Thanks for the opportunity to provide some comments. Really appreciate CARB's work on this. My name is Brian Dodds. I'm with the San Joaquin Valley Air District. Just wanted to touch on the alignment suggestions. I think generally we've been in favor of bringing together some of the program requirements and eligibility to make it easier for everybody. Couple of thoughts. I think we'd be a little concerned in terms of the model year changes based on the program demand and kind of limited funding available. So I think that's definitely a key consideration as we move forward with these discussions. Second comment was just on the program closure sort of formula that was put up there. And I think we've done a lot of work looking at average incentives and success rates and things like that. So I think the formula might be a little bit, as it's currently proposed, might be a little bit kind of overestimating completion rates. I think we could provide some info on kind of the things that we've seen and looked at in determining success rates and things like that. I think we'd want to make sure that we're trying to capture kind of an accurate completion rates and average incentives in order to arrive at sort of the best possible decision for stopping program apps and things along those lines. But overall, definitely in favor of these alignment discussions. So thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate your feedback there. Okay. I still have no questions in the email. I do not see any more hands at this time. Okay, folks, we will have another opportunity later on. So let's move ahead with the presentation for now. Who's up next? We have a break.
Yes, it just so happens that we have a break. So we're going to take a quick 5-minute break so folks can get water, snack, bathroom, whatever you need. We'll come back. Let's just make it an even, let's say come back at 2 p.m. So it's a little more than a 5-minute break. Thanks everyone for your questions so far.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back from our break. Now we are going to move into the long-term strategy for light-duty vehicle incentive projects, where we will provide an update on our long-term vision and 3-year funding need for our light-duty vehicle purchase incentive projects. If you could move to the next slide, please. Okay, thank you. Sorry, next slide after that. Okay, great. To recap, the long-term strategy for light-duty vehicles and clean mobility projects serves as CARB's long-term investment strategy for clean transportation incentives funding for both light-duty vehicle purchase incentives and mobility projects. This strategy serves as a roadmap showing how state incentives can help sustain and grow the light-duty vehicle emission vehicle market in California and provide solutions at the community level for clean transportation options. It identifies key priority areas for investment and outlines an estimated 3-year funding need for these programs. The long-term strategy includes several elements, an update on California's light-duty zero-emission vehicle market, including a trajectory analysis to reaching 2030 ZEV goals, further discussion of achieving a sustainable light-duty zero vehicle emission technology and market, including vehicle choice diversity, consumer awareness, and the impact of federal policies, a light-duty vehicle affordability analysis, given the current incentive landscape, analysis of 3-year funding need for CARB's light-duty vehicle and clean mobility projects, a discussion of staff's longer-term vision for these projects, and serves as the annual supplemental report required by the 2018-2019 Budget Act. Next slide, please. One of the core components of the long-term plan is laying out a longer-term vision for the vehicle purchase incentive projects. On this slide, you will see some of the goals and focus areas for the Driving Clean Assistance Program, Regional Clean Cars for All, and Access Clean California. Starting from the left with Driving Clean Assistance Program, focus areas for this program include program alignment with other individual incentive programs, refining the need-based model for program eligibility, continuing to invest in community partnerships with community-based organizations, air districts, and others. For the Regional Clean Cars for All program, focus areas also include program alignment and growth and support of community partnerships. For Access Clean California, focus areas include sustaining the existing outreach partner network and growing it over time, build outreach partner capacity to engage with clean transportation equity incentive programs, expand their case management support offerings to help program participants apply and continue to tailor offerings to what applicants need, and continue offering the Benefits Finder web tool and strategize for how to integrate new consumer-focused climate equity incentive projects, such as those offered by other agencies. Next slide, please. This table shows the estimated 3-year funding need for the Clean Cars for All program and the Driving
your sound
Clean.
cut out.
Oh, are you able to hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, Michaela.
Maybe if I turn off my video.
Yeah, you
it'll
sound
be
good now.
Okay. I'll leave the video off then. Should I restart this slide? I don't know how much you guys heard.
To be on the safe side, yes, go for it.
Okay. So this table shows the estimated 3-year funding need for the Clean Cars for All program and the Driving Clean Assistance program, which includes both scrap and replace and financing assistance components. I want to note that these values differ from what was shared previously on our website. Since posting the initial slide deck, we've conducted a broader analysis, which resulted in the updated values you see here. We will be replacing the earlier slides with these revised figures following this presentation. Based on historical, previous slide, thank you. Based on historical participation levels in recent quarterly data, we estimate the programs will need $154 to $312 million in fiscal year 2025-26. In fiscal year 2026-27, we estimate a need of between $182 to $340 million. And then in fiscal year 2027 to 2028, we estimate a need of $209 to $368 million. The lower end of these estimates reflects a scenario in which program participation remains steady, similar to past years. The higher end reflects a scenario with increased demand and uptake. These estimates are based on burn rates reported by the districts and include a 20% allocation for administrative costs. Due to the Driving Clean Assistance program still being early in its implementation, these figures include projections for both the scrap and replace and financing assistance components based on limited available data and are subject to change. Additionally, with the federal tax credit no longer available and continued steady growth in program participation, we expect funding needs to gradually increase each fiscal year. Next slide, please. This table shows the estimated 3-year funding need for the Access Clean California program, which is an outreach program focused on increasing awareness for the full suite of clean transportation equity incentives and is currently administered by Grid Alternatives. Right now, based on historical expenditures, we estimate the program will need between $5 and $10 million in each of the 3 subsequent fiscal years. On the lower end of that range, the program could sustain current operations. The program has been around since 2018 and has realized efficiencies over the years and generally holds steady as far as funding need goes. To adapt and grow, the program's current offerings, which include a statewide outreach partner network, an online application support tool, case management, and a technical assistance and capacity building support for community-based organizations, an increase in funding would be needed. In particular, to expand the outreach partner networks around the state would require additional funding to bring on more outreach partners. In particular, outreach partners that can take up a role supporting the case management team. This additional funding would directly support more organizations on the ground. Program administrator has also run a technical assistance and capacity building program for organizations led by or primarily serving Black and tribal communities. The goal of this program was to build capacity and technical skills so that these community-based organizations were better equipped to participate in and compete for funding for climate resilience initiatives. Participants were also trained to become Access Clean California outreach partners if desired. To continue to grow this program, additional funding would be required. Next slide, please. For our next steps, we will continue gathering and considering feedback from stakeholders during our comment period and future public work groups. Our next major milestone is finalizing the update to the long-term plan. This update will be included as Appendix C in the fiscal year 2025-26 funding plan for clean transportation incentives. We are targeting the November 2025 board hearing to present and seek final approval of this plan. Beyond this cycle, CARB staff will continue to provide updates and refinements in future funding plans, and stakeholder engagement will remain an ongoing part of these efforts. I will now hand it over to Robert for Q&A.
Thank you, Michaela. Okay, folks, if you would like to make a comment or ask a question, please raise your hand. For those using Zoom online on a desktop, please click on the raise hand option on the Zoom navigation bar under the Participants tab. If you are using an updated version of Zoom, you may need to click on the React or Reactions option on the Zoom navigation bar and then click on Raise Hand. For those using Zoom on a mobile application, please click the Raise Hand option in the More tab. Again, if you're using an updated version of Zoom, you may need to click on the React or Reactions option on the Zoom navigation bar, and then click on Raise Hand. For those joining by phone, please be sure to press #2, and we will call on you accordingly. If you would like to provide a written comment or send us a question via email, please send an email to the address on the screen, cleantransportation@arb.ca.gov. Again, I would remind you that if you have a question or comment, please identify yourself and provide any affiliation you may have. Okay, at this time, I see 3 hands in the queue. First off, Chris Chavez, please go ahead, Chris.
Yes, thank you. Chris Chavez again with Coalition for Clean Air. For those, and this question might be a little more complicated to answer, but for those that have been around for a while may remember back in 2022, the governor and the legislature agreed to a multi-year funding plan for clean transportation incentives, including the light duty programs. And through various twists and turns, that plan has gone extended, has gone altered, and now with this most recent budget negotiations, I know about $500 million per year over the next few years is going to CAL FIRE from the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, as well as some other budget Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund changes. Has there been any thought within at least within CARB, about possibly revisiting or revising, at least in some sort of public way, the multi-year ZEV funding plan that was agreed to a few years back?
Thanks, Chris. This is Lisa. So the effort that was done by the administration. So that multi-year ZEV plan was the governor's plan, administration's plan as a whole, that was put out. CARB didn't hold any type of process in the development of that. That was entirely put together by the administration. So now that said, I'd say that our equivalent is this conversation. It's the what do we think our piece of that is, and of that, like, what do we think that the projects could use over the next few years? And so my hope is that what we put out in our funding plan, or the conversations that we're having today, help to inform what those future recommendations look like as the legislature and the governor work through the GGRF funding, and through the cap and invest reauthorization.
Thanks, Lisa. Thanks, Chris. Okay, Christian Corby, please go ahead.
Yes, hello everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Christian Corby, and I'm the Deputy Director at the California Electric Transportation Coalition, or Cal-ITP. Really appreciate all the great information today. I just wanted to make a couple of brief comments. One, really appreciate the information on the burn rates from the various programs that, like Clean Cars for All and DCAP. That is super helpful, especially for us as advocates that go to the legislature and really pound the pavement to get as much funding as we possibly can for these programs. So that's super helpful, and we'll continue to see how those burn rates shape up over the course of the next couple of years or so. Fingers crossed we continue to receive sustainable funding. For the alignment, we absolutely would support alignment between the various district programs and DCAP. And then I guess, I say this just as kind of a general comment, but so long as those alignments improve the assistance that the people are receiving in those areas, right? California is a big state, and there's some various tailoring that might improve certain performances in certain regions that might just want to be something we consider moving forward, assuming that the alignment improves the performance of the programs for those that are being served. Great. I like it. Makes sense. And then finally, really appreciate the projected funding needs for the coming fiscal years. That is super helpful, and I'm going to shoot that off to my colleagues right now, so we can potentially add that in some of our advocacy going forward around the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund. So thank you so much. Really appreciate all your hard work on this.
Thank you so much, Christian. We appreciate your feedback. Okay, next in the queue, we have Kendra Ramsey. Please go ahead, Kendra.
Hi, Kendra Ramsey, California Bicycle Coalition. I was wondering if there were any updates on the e-bike incentive project, either related to administration or any anticipated changes to implementation for the next sort of funding amount that is still yet to be spent.
At this time, we're reviewing internally and we have no current updates. So appreciate the question. Thank you, Kendra. Okay, next in the queue, Adam Borison. Please go ahead, Adam.
Great. Hope you don't get tired of hearing from me. So one of the things that occurred to me is there's a lot of talk, which I completely support, about aligning various rules and criteria eligibility. But one thing I realized I didn't hear much about, and I'm curious if there's attention being paid to it, is process alignment. DCAP gives you 30 days to buy a car, again, as a dealer. Clean Cars for All gives you up to 120 days, massive difference. 30 days is frankly not enough for almost anybody, particularly us. And then DCAP requires a mechanics report. Again, a minor tactical question, but Clean Cars for All does not. And I'm curious, speaking more generally about process issues as opposed to eligibility issues, are there efforts to align process as well as eligibility? I'll stop there. Thank you so much.
Here, I'll go ahead and jump in. Hey, Adam, this is Lisa McCumber, the chief of the Equitable Mobility Incentives Branch. First of all, I think it would be really great to have a conversation with you offline and understand a bit more about the experiences that you've been having and where we can find ways to continue to improve. I think a lot of the things that you've been mentioning today are very, very helpful. So I do think that there are potential for us to have conversations around process improvements as well as some of the policy alignment that we've been talking about. And we have within our process, we've got, this for funding plan for what we're working through today and developing are some of the kind of bigger policy issues that we take to our board. And then throughout the year, we have a number of more like implementation focused work groups where we spend, I think, a bit more time in the weeds on the types of things that you're interested in. And so I absolutely want to encourage you to participate in those as well. So what I'm going to commit to for you is I'd really love to chat offline. And so my team and I will reach out with you just so we can understand more of your experience. And I think, again, a lot of the suggestions that you're making makes a lot of sense. And I think we'd like to continue to talk through them, figure out what we can do to address them. So thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. Thank you, Adam. Okay. Do we have any emails at this time? No emails. I see no more raised hands at this time. Give it a minute. I want to remind everybody that if you do have comments or questions that did not occur to you during the workshop, but occur to you later, please reach out to us via email at cleantransportationincentives@arb.ca.gov. I still see no hands at this time, so I'm going to hand things back to Catherine.
Thanks, Robert. And thanks everyone for all your amazing feedback and this discussion. And we covered a lot of ground today, and this was really helpful. So while there isn't proposed funding for incentive projects this year, today's meeting did help us lay out the status of our incentive projects and potential policy changes for this funding plan year. I think we had a really good discussion on program alignment, and we appreciate all of you who brought comments and thoughts on these proposed changes. I'll briefly provide some information on our funding plan development schedule for this year before we close out. So move to the next slide. So as mentioned earlier, mid-June to mid-August are the more intensive months to collaborate with you and all of our stakeholders to develop the proposed funding plan. As you can see, we've had a lot of meetings planned over these months. Today is the second of 2 work groups focused on the light-duty vehicle purchase incentives and the long-term strategy. On August 14th, we'll discuss the draft ideas in a workshop and recap that meeting at an evening community meeting a few days later. Staff will then write the proposed funding plan and post it to the website on October 10th, when you'll have an opportunity to review and comment on the plan for 30 days. We'll have another evening community meeting on October 21 to discuss the proposed plan and answer your questions and listen to your comments. We'll present the proposed plan and hear verbal comments at the November 20th board meeting, where you'll also have the chance to provide verbal comments. Before I close this out and share our contact slide, I do want to turn it over briefly to Stephanie Parent to provide a quick announcement about our community survey.
Hey, Catherine. Thanks for calling out my name because I forgot that I had an announcement. So we wanted to let everybody know that we made live on our website the community survey, which we've offered the past couple of years. So this year we've revised it, and we're looking for feedback from people, especially community members, maybe community-based organizations, on just your needs and how we can help to like improve the clean transportation incentive projects and programs that we offer, and as well as how to improve outreach and engagement with all of you. So we have posted that on our website, and I can drop it in the chat unless staff has already done it or has the link. Please think about filling that out. I believe we're going to close it on August 26th. So it's not a lot of time that it's open, but part of that is just to try to give ourselves time to analyze the results, and to be able to include a summary of the analysis in this year's proposed funding plan. And of course, the survey is voluntary, and we won't identify anyone, by name or by any other type of like identifiable information. So again, it's a summary, of results. So it kind of goes more based on themes. Sometimes maybe we would provide a quote, but we wouldn't associate a name with that. I'll hand it back over to Catherine unless anybody has questions about that.
Well, thanks, Steph. All right, we can move on to the next slide and I will close this out. So this is our contact slide. And I just want to give a quick reminder about our open door policy, especially for those who are most affected by our incentive projects. We really encourage you to contact us if you're interested in setting up a one-on-one discussion about you or your group's needs, concerns, or potential solutions that you might have related to any of our projects. Any of us listed on this slide can help you get to the right person to have that discussion. We do also have a new funding plan engagement opportunities webpage where you can find our online meeting request form, a link to sign up for our listserv to receive email updates, and our calendar of meetings. Staff will share the link to that in the chat, and I see that staff has also provided the link to the community survey. You can reach us at any of these email addresses and our general email box, clean transportation incentives at arb.ca.gov, which should be in the chat multiple times now. We really appreciate your engagement with us today to help develop the proposed funding plan, and we look forward to continuing to collaborate with you. So it's really been a pleasure to facilitate today's meeting. Thanks so much for joining us, and hopefully you can have a good late lunch and enjoy the rest of your afternoon. I think we can leave the contact slide up for a few minutes before we close the meeting. Thanks, Michael.